Xenu, Xenu. So, since we're on the subject of whole track, with the whole track series now, figured I'd read OT Maxims. It's 1-page HCO bulletin, which is the scripture of Scientology. HCO bulletins, RJs, which are Ron's journals, policy letters. There's a difference between a bulletin and a policy letter. And executive orders and executive directives. Okay? OT Maxims. People curious about what OT is. You know, OT powers, like Tom Cruise has, where he's just, you know, he can hang on the side of a fucking airplane and do all his own stunts and stuff. This is all considered OT shit. He does his own stunts. He's OT. So, this came from the 80s. 1982. Hubbard Communications Office, St. Hill Manor, East Grinstead, Sussex. HCO Bulletin of 10 August 1982. He always dated things like the military did. Alright, OT Maxims. Bold, or capitalize, underline. For some time now, I've been engaged on a patch of OT research, resulting in the new OT levels. Sign up now. And which will result in never before dreamed of states of being for Thetans. These new OT levels and others to follow will advance a Thetan to levels he hasn't even imagined for eons. Super Saiyan, Kamehameha. And hear this. And hear this. In order to help you along the road to OT, I'm going to release the following OT data that you can use to pull up your Theta bootstraps and get along up the road. Pull up those bootstraps. Power. OT power is defined as light year kilotons per microsecond. Light year kilotons per microsecond. Okay, the power of a Thetan, light year kilotons per microsecond, is measured by nothing else than the distance, the spherical spatial length around him in his environment that he can control. That's OT. This is OT. This is OT. It's in the sphere of my environment and I can control it. You see what I mean? Woo! It's in the sphere of my environment. I can control it. Can I reach this thing over here? This mixing board? No. Can't control that. That's not OT. Anyways, and that is the power of a Thetan, the totality of it. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. He does say, believe it or not. Believe that or don't. That's, if you listen to his lectures, he's pretty half-assed about all this shit. I'm probably fucking crazy. You can believe that or not. When a Thetan exerts this power uncleverly, he brings about destruction. So, I get mad. This is a glass table, by the way. If I get mad and I slam something on it, break the glass table, that's destroying something. OT style. And thus you get a fascist state that destroys itself. It's got the control but not good sense. Well, since everything, Ron, since everything is made up of mist, like this is mist, but it's probably interpolated mist, and I have the power to destroy it, then of course it has a reaction to that. I'm interpolating the theta. Message. So, and so that where good sense and judgment enter in, good sense and judgment, OT powers. When good sense and judgment are not added in control, control gets a bad name. So what they want you to believe, what Ron wants you to believe, is that control is good. And this is core concept in body routing, in OT body routing. Because bodies are just spheres of theta, right? And you just have to move that energy somewhere else into a mission. It's control. When good sense and judgment are not added into control, control gets a bad name. Example, someone I'm body routing with has never body routed before. And so they ARC break somebody, quote, ARC break. They freak someone out, in other words. Because you're in a fucking cult. You walk up to somebody and you're like, hey, I got a Dynetics book. You want to come get a personality test and get your mind fucked? When people feel like that, they will not respond to control. So there's a thing. There's drills, bulletins, training bulletins, stuff like that. HCCI, Help Communication Control Interest. And all that is, it's an abbreviation called HCCI, Help Control Communication Interest. And all that it means, it's a process that you drill. But what you have to do with a partner is get them to admit that help is possible. Get them to admit that communication is not bad. Then, at that point, and you can spend time getting a person to believe or to accept that help is possible on different levels. Like, is it possible to help someone with a drug problem? Is it possible to help someone with a family problem? Is it possible to help someone with a financial problem? Is it possible to help someone with problem? You get them to admit all this. Then you get them to understand that communication is not a bad thing. In fact, the fact that they were able to communicate that help is possible is a measure of their integrity and all this. You know, you start love bombing them at this point. And you talk about how great they are communicating this to you. And then then comes the crucial part, where if you freak the person out, then you've lost them. You've lost them. They're gone. This can happen at any point in the introductory processes of Scientology, when people are routing on to the bridge. But at some point you have to confront control a person and get that person to admit that controlling things is okay. And usually it means not only does a person believe that controlling something as simple as a piece of candy is possible and okay, and try to apply that to other things. The problem is when they apply it to other things, they believe that it's okay to control other people and to manipulate other people. Interests manifest once a person has the idea in their head that control is possible. Because why would be for a lot of different reasons for a lot of different people. But let's just take a typical example. someone finds out that it's possible and okay to control something, something. Well, if they admit to themselves that control is okay, if used with good sense and good judgment, then it's okay to control somebody if it's for their own good. All right. Especially if they have that mentality, like Aaron talks about in the Scientology Matrix video. They really think they're helping and that all ends justify the means. Because they're essentially asleep when they're not awake. They're hypnotized. It's the reverse of what that person thinks. You're the one hypnotized, and they're the ones that aren't. The wogs are walking around mostly awake, even if they're fucking on massive amounts of drugs. They're more awake than you are if you are a subscriber to this shit and you're actually in the church. So, when good sense and good judgment are not added into control, control gets a bad name. That's the example that I give on that. The person who doesn't know how to use HCCI properly. And so when we body route, sometimes Jason and I would body route 5-6 people at a time into Ventura Mission, and people would just jaw drop. Oh my God, that was so OT. Oh my God, that was so OT. And then we come back and bring some more. You guys are freaking OT as shit. But you're not even OT yet. But you know the OT Maxims. So blah, 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 blah. And that is where you get the idea that people shouldn't have control, is what it says. Because when good sense and judgment are not used, control gets a bad name. Well, we all know the quote, power corrupts, money corrupts, absolute power absolutely corrupts, you know, that whole thing. Control, power, in this case, power over someone is control. So, power corrupts absolutely. And that's what you see in the executive, as you go on up the org board. You see the more power, the more corrupt. So, a way to improve your control or another's is to do it on a gradient. Like I said, when you route someone onto the bridge, if you don't handle HCCI properly, then they can still blow because you haven't handled control on a gradient. Because you can't immediately just hypnotize somebody and start controlling them and have power over them. But if you do it slowly over time with a gradient, works really good in groups. Reinforcement. You reinforce the behavior. And it works. So if a Thetan is having trouble controlling things, get him to control things on a gradient and he'll snap right out of it. Well, whatever. What I found was that there were certain people who were not able to do Division 6 work. They were just not able to do it very effectively at all. A Div 6 person, Division 6 person, has to be someone that people like. You know, someone friendly. Not everybody's friendly. Definitions: good control, harmonious alignment. Bad control, disharmonious alignment. And by the way, you have art here too. War. Definition: bad control having to be exerted because good control wasn't exerted. And this also defines destruction. So he throws in the deep-ass meaning of why we have war on Earth is because of good control and bad control. And then he wraps it up saying, so there you are, use these maxims well, our future depends on it. That was in 82. This wasn't long before he died. He was fucking crazy as a shithouse rat. So, light your kilotons per microsecond. It's the power of a Thetan. It's the hard cell pack, by the way. It's one of the only books that I'll really ever fuck with on this channel, because this would be the Bible. Now, I have read, just so you know, I've read all of the basic books. I read the books before the basic books, before they reprinted them. I also read all the manuscripts for all the Congresses, and I had the whole LRH library, including the OECs and the the management series. I had the Assists manual, which is a rare find. I had a lot of rare shit. I had some Ron's journals. I had tons of volunteer minister. Of course, I have the volunteer minister's handbooks. I have the What is Scientology book still, and I use that as in fact, I'm using the What is Scientology book to reference how they present the religion to the outside world, similar to the way Jehovah's Witnesses present their religion to the outside world with their with their Kingdom magazine or whatever. It's propaganda. You know, it's not what they really believe. You want to know what they really believe, then you join. But you know, as far as I know, Jehovah's Witnesses don't. It's not as rapacious as Tony Ortega would say financially as Scientology is. So, control. There's a reason why I read Control and Self-Determinism in an earlier video. So, I would go check that out too. If you found this video interesting, check out the video about self-control and self-determinism. All this shit correlates to how people are, let's just say that there are defense mechanisms that people set up for their own protection. You do this in everyday life to protect yourself emotionally, physically, and financially. If somebody comes up to you at a gas station and asks you for $10 and gives you the same old line that the last 10 guys did, you may or may not be willing to help the guy out. It just depends on what defense mechanisms you have set up. You may have something set where I'm just not giving anybody any money. You know, charity starts at home. And it doesn't make you bad for having some sort of defense mechanism in that way. But all of the material in the Hard Cell Pack is designed to help you break down those barriers, those defense mechanisms with a person, with very general, vague concepts that are in some way, somehow, sometimes feasible. Not believable, not necessarily provable, not provable, but feasible, and it's pseudo-psychology. That's what it is. It's pseudo-psychology. The methods that are employed are being employed unethically. And with the HCCI scale, I can't define it in psychological terms just yet. That's the goal. One of. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Tomorrow's my birthday. I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. I've been sitting around watching DVDs. I unplugged from the Facebook for a little while. And my best friend was here last night. We watched a classic cult rock movie that was shot to save a bar downtown in New England somewhere called Lupo's. anyone from New England know of a bar called Lupo's. There's a movie called Complex World that was shot over a weekend there, and it's a great rock and roll flick, and haven't seen it in over 20 years and had it transferred from VHS to DVD. So we watched that through a 412 cab and some rigged up TV that sitting on a keyboard stand. So that's my OT Maxim video, and if you have any questions, comments, please put them below. I'll do my best to answer them. I've got a video, a follow-up video for the whole track interiorization rundown video that I did, because there's some good questions that came out of that. So, and there were some circumstantial things that were going on related to the memories that I had from past lives. So in other words, there were things that were going on that could have made me believe things that were already in my mind, that just sort of like when you're being audited and you're like, and they're like, what's that? Your brain goes to like something that is familiar. And so there were some things that I was familiar with that make sense as to why I would think I had those memories. So have a great day. And hold on, I should have done this in the beginning. Nope, gotta have a different sound. How about, there we go. Welcome to goodbye. Goodbye from Wog World. We'll see you again someday. And hopefully it won't be that long.